and I am here to share with you, it is not learning. That is the absolute wrong thing to ask. To tell kids to never be wrong, to ask them to always have the right answer, doesn't allow them to learn. So we did this project, and it's this very hilarious story of how I ended up here, and this is one of the artifacts of the project. I almost never show them off because of the issue of the idea of failure. My students produced these infographics as a result of a unit that we decided to do at the end of the year, responding to the oil spill, a topic we've heard about today a lot. I asked them to take the examples that we were seeing of the infographics that existed in a lot of mass media and take a look at what were the interesting components of it and produce one for themselves of a different man-made disaster from American history. And they had certain criteria to do it. They were a little uncomfortable with it because we'd never done this before and they didn't know exactly how to do it. They can talk, they are very smooth, and they can write very, very well. But asking them to communicate ideas in a different way was a little uncomfortable for them. But I gave them the room to just do the thing. Go create, go figure it out. Let's see what we can do. And the student that persistently turns out the best visual product did not disappoint. This was done in like 2 or 3 days. And this is the work of the student that consistently did it. When I sat the students down, I said, who's got the best one? And they immediately went, there it is. Didn't read anything. There it is. And I said, well, what makes it great? And they were like, oh, the design is good, and he's using good color, and there's some, and they went through we processed out loud, and I said, go read it. And they're like, oh, that one wasn't so awesome. And then we went to another one. He didn't have good visuals, but had great information, and spent an hour talking about the learning process. Because it wasn't about whether or not it was perfect or whether or not it was what I could create. It asked them to create for themselves. And it allowed them to fail, process, learn from, and when we do another round of this in my class this year, they will do better this time. Because learning has to include an amount of failure, because failure is instructional in the process. There are a million pictures that I could click through here and had to choose carefully, this is one of my favorites, of students learning, of what learning can look like in a landscape where we let go of the idea that kids have to come to school to get the information, but instead ask them what they can do with it. Ask them really interesting questions. They will not disappoint. Ask them to go to places, to see things for themselves, to actually experience the learning, to play, to inquire. This is one of my favorite photos because this was taken on Tuesday when I asked the students to go to the polls. This is Robbie, and this was his first day of voting, and he wanted to share that with everybody and do that. But this is learning too, because we asked them to go out into real spaces. The main point is that if we continue to look at education as if it's about coming to school to get the information and not about experiential learning, empowering student voice, and embracing failure, we're missing the mark. And everything that everybody is talking about today isn't possible if we keep having an educational system that does not value these qualities, because we won't get there with a standardized test, and we won't get there with a culture of one right answer. We know how to do this better, and it's time to do better.